Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's podcast. I have the honor to invite two Ronald Pukun to our podcast today. So we have Professor Ronald Pukun, which we did a podcast before, like talking about Trump's communication strategy. Now we have the honor to invite his son, who is also a comedian, Ron Pukun, to join the podcast. So we're going to talk about the GOP candidates. So, Ron, I will give you a brief moment to introduce yourself.
Yeah, well, my name is Ron Placone. I'm not a professor, but yeah, I do comedy. I live in Los Angeles. I have a movie out called Left It Wall that's available on a bunch of platforms. It's a satire that is inspired by the GameStop incident that happened in 2021. So it kind of satirizes the Wall Street machine through that lens. I have a podcast called 1000 with Ron Placone, where I'm on a quest to interview 1,000 different people that have piqued my interest in some way. And you can find all my stuff, including tour dates and everything else, at ronplacone.com.
That's awesome. How many people have you interviewed so far for your 1,000 people
You
like
know,
quest?
we just we it's a newer podcast. Like I'd had the idea for years and just like it was just never the right time and I decided I really wanted to do it. So we just passed episode 100.
That's awesome.
So
That's
yeah,
like
so we
10%, like way to
so we're
go.
10% of the way there. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
one of those projects that kind of makes you feel your mortality because it's like I drop one episode a week. So I realize like by the time the quest is over, I'll be significantly older. I'll be in a
Yeah.
different stage of life. I'll probably have, my perspective will have evolved with age or whatever. So the types of people I might want to interview will do the same, presumably. So it's interesting. But our 100th episode just dropped, and the guest was underground hip hop legend Sage Francis. If there's any hip hop fans in your audience, they probably know him.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, so nice to have you here. It's funny story because I initially recommended Professor Ram Pukun you just use his name to register the YouTube account, and he said no, I cannot use that. This my son has the same name and he has a YouTube account. I searched it. I was like, wow, this Ram Pukun has already like 20,000 followers already. I
Yeah,
was
my
like, yeah,
personal, yeah, and
but I
then
never
I
realized you're his son. So like until he come mention, yeah, that's my son. I was like, wow, that finally clicked. I mean,
there's only a handful of Placones in the world, and we're all
yeah,
related. Yeah,
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 there's only a couple of us that don't know each other, but
that's very true.
it's not a common name, so
It
yeah.
was
we're
it
all
was an
related.
Ellis Island creation, the name. So the few of us that exist are all in the U.S., and there are not many of us.
Yeah, it's very true. And when I Google Ron Pukun, the first one came up is your son's name, like a comedian. I was like, I never know you were a comedian before you start to
Right.
teach like communication in
Yeah,
school. So,
I've gotten that a few times actually.
okay, awesome. So let's cut into the chase to our main topic today. We're going to talk about the GOP top candidate and the five guys here. I think Professor Pukun and Ron Pukun, you probably know all of them, right?
Sure. Yeah,
I'm familiar.
absolutely.
Familiar, yeah. And before that, we actually want to talk a little bit about our political spectrum. So I request that everyone to do a few research. So I'm going to put the link in the podcast description so everybody can do a test by themselves. It's very interesting. So it tests you where you stand in the political spectrum. And Professor, I know you're exactly in the middle, right?
Yeah, a
Are you,
stress sideliner. That sounds appropriate.
yeah, are you surprised about the result?
No,
No?
no,
So
because I'm very bothered by both parties right now, and I have such a memory of the way things were at one time and the way things
mhm.
are now. I'm not surprised I ended up there. Now, do I see myself maybe slightly to the left? Yes, I do, but
Okay.
I'm not surprised I'm in the middle.
Okay. What about you, Rum?
Well, I got outsider left, which I'm not sure exactly what that means, but I feel like that makes sense. I mean, I knew I would get left. I always say that, in most of the world, my political views would be considered on the left. In the United States, my political views are considered watch list. So,
Yeah.
I'm to the left of what is, the Overton window in this country. I've come to terms with that a long time ago and just kind of, you try to fight for the world you would like to see. But
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, I was a little confused when I took the test. Because I didn't realize that like when we were grading the political parties, I didn't realize that less than zero wasn't an option. So I gave the Democrats a zero, and I was
Uh,
going to give the Republicans a negative number, but that wasn't an
okay.
option. So I just
Okay.
I just had to give everyone a zero. So yeah, but
So I
I don't
think
think that
the
affected the
outsider
results much.
left sounds appropriate based on what you just described. So
Yeah.
that makes sense. And my result is actually ambivalent right. However, a lot of people on my channel claim that I'm a Democrat. So I guess like I'm probably kind of in the middle area. I think the middle region is a pretty big wide
Yeah.
with zone with margin. Like people have different view on certain issue. For example, for me, I'm pretty pro the left agenda on the social issues. But for the economic issues, I'm more leaning towards the right. That's probably the reason I'm kind of on the right hand side here. So
I think just the fact that for the three of us, we're in the three middle areas does suggest, well, one, I think we might bring a kind of a balanced perspective to today's discussion. I think we all
yeah,
be as, fair as we can. So yeah, looking forward to this.
awesome.
I think
So
is it based on like the spectrum itself, or is it based on like where people like land percentage wise? Because I think like technically outsider left would be the furthest left out of all these descriptors, but
mhm.
it's like so 10% of people fall into that category. A lot are right in the middle, 15%, and then ambivalent right is also kind of right there, but like kind of the more, kind of the
Yeah,
more
this
regimented things are just kind of in their own categories.
Yeah, this is a good question. I think the few research they kind of notice this number. The number here would be the percentage of the population who have done this test, like from
Hmm.
American population, right? But the spectrum they labeled are probably based on the issues. So they have
Yeah,
a
well, that's
certain
just weird because like an establishment liberal is like way to the right of me,
yeah, yeah.
like an outsider by the descriptors, like an outsider left person would be like way to the left, like they'd
I
be the
know,
furthest left spectrum wise,
I
but
know.
they're 10%, so I guess
Yeah.
like maybe the outsider thing puts them in the middle. I don't know. I
Mhm.
mean, it's fascinating. Whatever. I'm not,
Yeah, but I think if you look at the certain key issues, if you look at the face and flag conservative, like
right.
the color kind of show you like are you more leaning towards like evangelical GOP conservative
Yeah.
viewpoint, or you are just like economically aligned, but like for some social issue you are actually aligned to the left. For me, I think this perfectly explain my position. I'm pro a lot of like social agendas like the left trying to push, but I'm not towards the wokeness. Like I'm kind of anti-woke part for that part. But I also don't like the evangelicals trying to push the agenda, like kind of overturn the abortion rights and the other
Right.
social issues. So yeah.
Okay.
Well, that used to just be a classical conservative, but now there's no home in the GOP for people like you,
Yeah,
which is
exactly.
telling us something.
Yeah. So the interesting topic here is, a few days ago, Trump suggests Vance is like the heir apparent to the MAGA movement, like the next front runner for the GOP 2028. However, in his wording, he doesn't seem to give a very strong endorsement. Like he said, oh, in all fairness, he's a vice president. I think Marco is also somebody that may be get together with JD in some form. So he is like endorsing JD Vance, but not really a really strong endorsement. What you guys' opinion on this news?
Well, I don't think there's anything surprising there. I think it can be hard for Trump to say something like this in definitive ways. He likes to keep all of his options open. Uh,
Mhm.
but I do think it also makes sense. And I think when you look at the Emerson poll earlier this month, it suggests the same thing. And I think right now, I mean, the one thing about all of these candidates, they're all tied at the hip with Trump.
Yeah.
And, and their viability as candidates is going to be very much determined by his performance over the next 3.5 years. And the one to gain the most and lose the most from that is Vance, although I would say that all of these folks are so tied into Trump that what happens with this administration is going to have a great impact on whether or not they're electable or not.
Yeah.
I think he's so wobbly on that whole thing because I don't know. I don't know if he plans on leaving in
Well,
2028. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's true.
I
I
think
think
in
that's
his
very
mind, he doesn't know what could happen, and this could just be, one kind of big old coup because it already has been. I mean, one thing we're really learning in society is that laws don't matter when nobody is going to enforce them. He breaks
Mhm.
the law daily, and nothing's being done about it. There's no checks and balances. He's got the courts in his pocket. There has been the tiniest amount of pushback when even, these very dogmatic, extreme people are going around going, "Oh, geez, you can't do that. Come on, that's too far." But it's been very, very little.
Yeah.
My city in Los Angeles was just invaded. That's what happened. It was
Yeah.
invaded, and he just did the same thing in D.C.
DC.
These are all little tests to see what people are going to tolerate. As far as Rubio goes, I think JD Vance, I mean, JD Vance just sold his soul to Trump and Trump's happy for it, whatever. I think so. Donald Trump, and I'm just talking, from
Mhm.
a debate standpoint here, because another thing all these candidates have in common, by the way, other than being tied to Trump, is that I think they should all be thrown in jail indefinitely. That's another thing they all have in common. But
Okay.
strictly from a campaigning standpoint, Donald Trump destroyed Marco Rubio's career. I mean, Marco Rubio, I think will never get any further than he is now. I mean, not to say, I mean, the guy's doing fine, and there will always be, plenty of money available to him. But
Yeah.
but Donald Trump in 2016 just destroyed Rubio. I mean, he literally kind of made him cry, like he humiliated him. It
Yeah.
was kind of funny, but so I think he'll kind of throw Rubio a bone occasionally just because it's like he decimated the guy so hard. It's almost like I think it's sort of like a narcissistic tick. Like you
Yeah.
kind of throw a bone because you want to be liked by people so much, and here's a guy that you just destroyed. You just
Well,
kind of like wreaked him, and so you're sort of, oh yeah, maybe Rubio will get a crumb. That poor guy
Yeah.
Rubio who I destroyed.
but I think it's more than that, though, Ron. I think that's certainly part of it on the personal side, but I think it's Trump, the politician, looking at Latinos and he sees Rubio as a close connection and he wants to keep someone like that visible in his administration and say some good things because Trump is hoping that those trends continue with that
Hmm.
voting block. And Rubio is one of the ways you can try to shore up that support.
Also, if you look at the
I don't
betting
think he has
market,
that kind of foresight, but you might be right. I mean, I
No,
don't know. Like,
yeah,
I honestly, like, I'm not even trying. Like, I don't think he has that kind of foresight, but he might. I don't know.
I
It's
think
possible.
I think in that bigger picture he does. I think he sees. I mean, he knows who his base is, and as we all know, and he plays
yeah,
that base continuously, and he knows why he won that last election, and certainly the votes he got from that block were significant, and the trending toward the Republicans is huge and makes such a difference in Texas and Florida, and he wants to see that continue. So,
hmm,
Yeah, but I would say in his mind, he'll pat himself on the back for that. He'll be like, I
yeah,
got the Latinos. I
well,
already know that. So whoever I endorse, the Latinos will follow. I
yeah,
mean,
he'll always take.
that's what I think is going on in his mind. But yeah, you could be right. Maybe he has a little bit of that foresight.
Also, I think one thing he probably want to have in his mind is like, I just want to drag this game long enough, before I endorse anyone officially, like with my full support, people will still like treat me as a king, like I want to get his attention, I want to get his
Oh,
endorsement, get his blessing. So he want to play Vance
and
against Marco Rubio. I think it's
and
pretty apparent, right?
in fairness to Trump here, it is extremely early.
Hmm.
He's 6, 7 months into this term, I mean, it's very early to anoint somebody. I mean, I think for any politician at this phase, you would be hard pressed to
I
identify.
agree.
You
Yeah.
know,
Isn't it amazing? It's only been 6 or 7 months. I
right.
mean, what a man. That is just whenever you like take a step back and remember that, like, oh man, it's only been 6 or 7 months. I don't even think Biden woke up from his nap yet, 7 months in. And here it
Yeah.
is. George Bush wasn't done golfing, and here we got this. I mean, the damage he has caused. It's not even just him, it's who he's surrounding himself with.
I
I mean,
think it's drama every day, right? It's like
Yeah.
headlines nonstop, I would say.
Yeah, but it's damage too, though. The first
Yeah, I
time
agree.
around, it was just chaos and like inner chaos,
Right.
which honestly was a dodged bullet for the country and the world rather.
Yeah.
But this time around, they're really getting the damage done.
Yeah. So I actually want to talk about the probability here, right? So this is a screenshot from the polling market, and we're going to talk about the five candidate here. The interesting thing is like the betting market still think Donald Trump has a 4% chance to be the nominee for the GOP party, like both on polling market and Kalshi website. That's really interesting. Like that's 4% for Donald Trump. Um, J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio already talk about. What about Ron DeSantis? Like, I think Trump hate Ron DeSantis, right? Like because he fighted him in the last primary.
Yeah, I think similar to what Ron said about Rubio. I mean, DeSantis and Rubio have so much baggage.
Yeah, I know.
It's hard to see. I mean, there's a golden moment when you have a shot to make your run at the presidency.
Mhm.
DeSantis had his shot and he completely underwhelmed, underperformed. I don't think he will have another shot. So
Okay.
I just don't see him as a viable candidate at all.
What about the Donald Trump Jr.?
Well, I'll continue on the other three and then let Ron
Yeah,
share. I think he's the least uh,
likely.
likely of all of these. I just think, in terms of what we would unearth regarding him, would
Mhm.
be tremendous. There would be
Yeah,
so much that hasn't been told yet, and just the way he behaves himself in communication online and what
I
he has to
know.
say, the snarky ways, the condescending ways. I just don't think there's any chance in the world this guy goes anywhere after Trump Sr. is out of office. And Abbott, I see Abbott very similar to DeSantis,
Hmm.
certainly tied in more closely to Trump right now, certainly as they try to come up with five congressional districts.
Yeah, gerrymandering. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think what we're gonna, I personally think um, that we're going to see a couple things this next go round that will influence how electable any of these folks are.
Hmm.
I think
Yep.
we're going to see a little bit of movement backwards after Trump. That almost always happens after something that's such a significant departure.
Yeah.
As I would argue the Trump administration has been. I think we're going to see more focus on trust issues. I think there's going to be more focus on some degree of compassion
Hmm.
for government. The things that are really, I think, you're hard to find right now. I think those are going to become campaign issues uh, next time around. And I don't think someone like Abbott is going to score well. Now let's see too what all happened. Again, we're so early in this, and there's so much to play out.
Yeah.
But so we're sort of like the betting markets right now, and out of that group of five, and even when you look at some of the second tier candidates, to me, Vance is the clear front runner. I mean,
Hmm.
clear front runner.
All right. Ron, so I think let's just start to rate each candidate. We can go from several categories. So you have the electability, message clarity, coalition growth, money and machinery, debate, and liability. So liability risk means like any
Right.
scandal those candidates may have, like how much like negative news or like the word he said like 20 years ago being digged up and then become headlines. Those are the potential risks. So what I'm gonna do is let's just go over each candidate, right? So for we can go through the electability right now. For J.D.Vance, electability, I'll give him a 4. I'll let Professor Ron and Ron kind of give your score and reason for that. The reason I gave him 4 is I think like he's a logical front runner and he has a good connection across the MAGA base. And when I saw the debate he had with Tim Watts, he is actually pretty likable after that, even though he lies a lot. I know in my back mind he lied during that debate, but just from the pure eye test, he's more presentable than Trump to my mind. So I gave him a 4 just from a rational electability scoring. What about you, Professor? Like, what score are you going to give him?
I gave him a 4 as well for
Mhm.
some similar reasons. I think, he's the one he's a vice president. It's still a fairly high profile position.
Mhm.
He's the one that's going to be most associated with success or failure from this administration. He'll have access to the workings of the administration, to the donors. Right now, I would say certainly he's like all of these candidates. I mean, everybody has a lot of flaws. He has a lot of flaws. But in
Mhm.
terms of potential electability, I would rate him a 4.
Ron.
I'm gonna rate him a 3, just so I can be different, and
Mhm.
because I think in the next year or so, IKEA is gonna make a couch that's gonna steal his heart away, and he's gonna run away to Costa Rica.
Uh-huh.
No, I do think, and I think that, yeah, he is the vice president. That does kind of put him in that position.
Mhm.
But I still think, I mean, and again, this does get into personality, but personality is just such a big piece these days, maybe
Mhm.
more so than ever before in American politics, at least in my lifetime. And Donald Trump, I mean, he is a dictionary narcissist. That's just what he is.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone can dispute that. And as a guy who's dwelled in show business long enough, I've dealt with narcissists before. So I can
Yeah.
tell you, eventually they
Yeah,
burn down the
yeah,
building if they don't get to piss in the
yeah,
soup as much as they want to. And
yeah.
so I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities that Trump is going to have enough advance that
Oh,
that
yeah.
bridge will be burned, and then all of a sudden that VP thing means absolutely nothing. And by the way, happened to the last guy. So,
No, I think
Pence.
we don't see Mike Pence up there. So for that reason, I'm going to go 3.
and
Okay.
that makes sense. I mean, there's going to be plenty of opportunities to throw him under the bus. There'll be plenty of opportunities
And if
for
he has to, he will, and he probably will. So he'll
there's
throw him
no
under that
question.
bus. He'll back up backwards and forwards and tell you how
Yeah,
he's the greatest bus driver. That's what will
right.
happen.
Yeah, I agree.
Then it comes to the Donald Trump Jr. electability. Professor, what score do you give him?
I gave him a 1.
Okay.
I just don't think there's anything electable about him. I
Yeah.
don't think he's likable. And, traditionally, likability has really mattered. I mean,
Yeah.
that was the number one predictor of a successful presidential campaign through the Clinton administration.
Hmm.
I think that's all been changed through Trump because I think there are a lot of people who did vote for Trump who didn't like him, but
Hmm.
for various reasons they voted for Trump. I just don't see anything that suggests Donald Trump Jr. is electable.
Yeah. What about you, Ron?
I think a lot of those sentiments are pretty accurate. I will go a little higher. I'll go 2. And the reason
Okay.
I'll go 2 is because I don't think it's an impossibility that Trump will want to keep it in the family. And I think that if he does, he's just going to use every tool at his disposal to make
Yeah.
sure he gets the result that
Yeah.
he wants. I mean, we could address the big elephant in the room here. We got a lot of election integrity issues in this country, a
Right.
lot.
Yeah.
And we're
You
getting
know,
it's getting worse.
and it's getting worse. And they're trying to basically get the result they want, even in the midterms, with the stuff they're
Right.
doing in Texas right now.
Right.
And California says they're gonna call the bluff, but we'll see if Gavin actually commits to that. A lot of us
Yeah.
aren't a big
Let's
fan of
see.
him for a number of reasons. But so I'll say too, just because if he keeps it in the family, he's going to do everything he can to get what he wants. I don't think the country would go for Don Jr. I just don't, and
Yeah.
I'm not the most optimistic when it comes to the electorate, but I don't think the American people would go for Don Jr.
If I
Yeah.
could throw in a popular culture reference, I know Ron watched this show. Did you watch Succession, Bruce?
Oh yeah, I did. I did.
To me, this would be a Succession play out, and I'm not sure end of day if he wants to keep it with Don Jr. Keep it in the family, he would go with Don Jr.
Oh, you think he
Oh.
would go Eric?
I think there's a chance he would go Eric.
I
Go
don't think he'd
Eric?
go Eric. I
As
just think
goofy as Eric is, and Eric, if you look at when he's asked that question, I mean, there is a little bit of glee in his voice, thinking, "Yeah, this is a possibility."
I think
And I
that's just
could
what his
see,
face looks like.
I know, well, that's true too, but I could see Trump playing the siblings off each other as to who would be the successor, and I'm not sure. I think most likely it would be Don Jr., but I'm not convinced of that. I could foresee, just like we saw an upset in Succession, I could
Yeah.
see something similar happen.
I think Ivanka was actually be like more
Yeah,
electable than Don Jr.
Mhm.
or
he
the
seems to
other.
be
So
distant
I
Well,
herself.
I
know.
think,
Yeah.
I mean, if he could just pick whoever he wanted to keep it in the family, he would pick Barron, but
Yeah.
I mean, he's too young, but I
Yeah.
think if he could just have his way, he would pick Barron, Game
Oh,
of Thrones
Barron looks
style.
really like Trump. I mean, like a younger
Yeah.
version of Trump,
Yeah,
right? Like to some certain extent, like yeah. I would give him two as well. I mean, I just don't. I think like who can be more MAGA than like the same guy carry the same name to his base? Like if his base is like so delusional that still support him in 2028, like Donald Trump Jr. has a chance in the primary, but I just don't think he can win the general election like his dad did. Like,
yeah. See,
yeah.
that I think what you said is key. I just think the mega, it's going to require more than mega to win in
Oh
2020.
yeah.
And you're seeing fall off in some of the other constituencies that Trump was able to get enough out of to win this last election.
Oh, we just need the Democrat Party don't drop the ball, like just keep
Mhm.
someone 80 years old to try to
Yeah.
run a re-election.
Right.
Okay, let's move on to Marco Rubio. Professor, how electable do you think he is?
I think he's a two. Um, I think he is. I be honest. I rated the next three all twos, but I think he's the strongest two of the bunch.
Hmm.
And I think the reason for it is because of the constituency that he represents the best.
Hmm.
But I don't think he's electable. I do think he was damaged severely in the last presidential attempt. I think he's trying to, it's hard in his role. I mean, there's certainly visibility in his role, but it almost seems like he's trying to play it a little bit low key. I just don't see him as a strong candidate.
Hmm.
Maybe a number two. I mean, when Trump said
Oh, he's the number two, all right. But
Vance Rubio, though, I could see him up as a possible vice presidential candidate.
Okay, so JD on the top of the ticket and then
Mhm.
Rubio as the vice
I could
president.
see that as their ticket
Okay.
potentially.
Ron, what do you think?
I'm going one with Rubio. I just
Hmm.
think Rubio is like he's not quite a Rick Santorum level. He's not quite like that far into the sewer, but he's not far off. And I'm just talking electability here,
Hmm.
even.
Yeah.
I think Rubio has tapped out. He's gonna just, milk things as long as he can. He'll run in 28. He'll run
Yeah.
because, he'll be able to fundraise and then just, kid himself for a little while. But no, I mean, yeah, his presidential hopes were buried in 2016. And then he continued to kind of bury himself by like being scared at town halls, not showing up. It's
Yeah.
like, look, one thing about especially the right, they
Hmm.
don't respond well to what they perceive as weakness. And if
Yeah.
you can't face your voters,
All right.
even
Well,
if those voters, disagree with you, so they disagree with your base is still going to get ticked off about such a thing. And they did. So all that stuff will resurface. Rubio's not going
you
anywhere.
just had a good example of that in Northern California. I mean, when people are finally going out and doing town halls, the Republicans are having a hard time there. I mean, they're getting
Hmm.
back over the coals.
Oh yeah. Well, I'll give him slightly higher. I'm gonna give him a three. I think like he is still, in my mind, like anything kind of represent the good old days, like the conservative, like is conservative establishment. At least some of the policy I think he tried to push, like the immigration reform, all the other stuff he tried to pass a bill back in the 2016 before that, it still represent that part. So I'll give him slightly more than the Donald Trump Jr. type, like the MAGA, the original MAGA movement. So I think he is more electable than that. So I give him a three on this one. What about Ron DeSantis? I know Professor already gave his opinion. Ron, what do you think about DeSantis?
I'll go a little higher. I'll give DeSantis a three.
Hmm.
I think that Ron. I mean, like from a political standpoint. I mean, Ron DeSantis. I despise him almost more than anybody else. I think he's incredibly dangerous. He's not the most likable guy. He
Yeah.
doesn't. He's not very well spoken. He's very weird. I mean, he almost like as if the concept of a red flag could be a person, it would just be Ron DeSantis. Like he's strange, but
Yeah.
but he is a very in a very dangerous way. He's an effective legislator. I mean, you look at what
Hmm.
he's accomplished in Florida. I mean,
Mm.
he's
Yeah.
literally sold concentration camps. He's sold eugenics. This guy is dangerous as hell, but from a legislative standpoint, he can kind of get things done and he's able to sound reasonable. That's the other side of that blade, so to speak.
Hmm.
So I wouldn't count him out.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
let me just expand a little bit on why I had him as a two. For some of the reasons Ron said, I mean, I think he's a very poor communicator, seems very uncomfortable. I've known a lot of corporate people, I've coached a lot of corporate executives that were very
Hmm.
good in one organization and then bombed in another. DeSantis plays Florida well. He plays Florida very well. He doesn't play well on the national stage, and I don't see anything in how he goes about his business that suggests that he's ready for a national stage or it will be any different than what it was last time for him.
Hmm. I kind of agree with Professor's viewpoint. I'll give him a two here. I think he and Marco Rubio are kind of similar. Like they all come from Florida, and they have that kind of Latino vote share. Like those people are going to support him. But I think Marco Rubio has a better speaking capability than Ron DeSantis. If I put these two guys side by side, I'll probably vote for Rubio if that's the only choice I have. So, given that reason, I'm going to give him a two here. What about Greg? Ron, what do you think?
Oh, I mean, dude, Greg Abbott is just a human yawn. I give him a one.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what he is? He's the new Rick Perry.
Hmm.
where you come from Texas, where hey, if you're a backed Republican in Texas, you're gonna have a nice career because you got the oil companies in your pocket, you got all the old Texas money in your pocket, and you can
Hmm.
do pretty much whatever you want because even though all the city centers hate everything you're doing, you got the maps the way you need them
Right.
to look to get your
Yeah.
agenda. It is just
Yeah.
a deep red state in that regard. That's where the Greg Abbotts in the world and the Rick Perrys of the world, they thrive there. But then they
Right.
try to get on the national stage,
Not
and it
happening.
just never, ever, ever works. And this guy, I mean, Rick Perry was at least somewhat humorous, and I mean, not on purpose, but he was at least like just ridiculous. Greg Abbott, it's like there's just nothing,
Yeah.
like you can't even make a joke about that guy. He's just kind of there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say one for that guy. I
Yeah.
think he's just on the list because they just needed a fifth person in the article. They probably just rolled the dice and he won.
Yeah. I'll give him a two. I think I saw him kind of debating on the stage against the challenger for his governor position. I think he speak pretty well. He debate fairly well in that stage. I think like from the general electability perspective, he's definitely on par with Ron DeSantis.
Yeah.
I think the only problem with that is like, Texas, you have this particular structure there, and as a Republican, you can basically do whatever you want there, and you're kind of always in control. In the national stage, I kind of view this as remember me of the George W. Bush, right? He's from Texas as well, right?
Right.
But
Yeah.
he barely won the first election. I would say like it's probably
Right.
debatable.
Well,
Probably
Bush
he
technically
Gore.
already
he
lost.
didn't. He didn't win,
Yeah, I
but
agree. Technically he
yeah.
didn't, but like his second term he definitely he did win, but because of that situation of the war.
Right.
So I think like any politician from Texas like kind of reminds me of Bush. So I'll give him a two.
Yeah, I mean, and just to like expand on that, like, yeah, Bush did break through nationally, but he also had the Bush
Right.
dynasty
That's
behind him,
yeah.
and it didn't carry over to Jeb.
No.
So, like it's one of those things. Like, yeah, something will break through, but in more recent years, we've kind of seen it level off there. And if anyone's gonna, it's certainly not gonna be Greg Abbott that breaks that trend.
Yeah. So then let's move to the message clarity, right? So how each candidate can message across the board. I think J.D. Vance, I'll give him pretty high score. I think he's just like a MAGA. He's just going to push his right-wing agenda. He's like anti-immigration, anti global trade, isolationist, and yeah, I think he just going to keep pushing the MAGA message. What about Professor? What do you think?
I had him as a four as well.
Mm,
I think of the debate, and I spent a lot of time analyzing that debate. We used
mm,
the Talk Me Up tool to analyze the debate, and certainly there were instances where he said things that were just wow. Trump saved Obamacare, Affordable
Oh
Care.
yeah,
A number
yeah.
of things said that were crazy, but he's slick. I mean, you could see his lawyerly training. He can own a platform and come across in very positive ways. I mean, I watched that debate with some folks who were definitely leaning in that direction, I think.
Hmm.
Not sure. But certainly at the end of it, one of the comments that I heard repeatedly after that from many people was, gee, I wish Vance were the one running this
On the
time.
top of the
I
ticket.
like
Yeah.
there was more civility in the tone, and I think people spoke highly of him. So I do think his message generally resonates with people.
Hmm. Ron, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I guess in my head right now, I'm trying to like make the distinction of message clarity and debating acumen because,
Hmm.
they are two different topics here.
Yes.
And I think it's fair that, they're definitely two different things. So I think when it comes to message clarity, I'll go a little lower and I will give him a three. I think all those points made were fair, but I think like those strengths are in some of these latter categories, not as much in message clarity itself. he has been caught in some contradictions
Right.
before. He will, in that debate, which I know we're probably going to talk more about, during the topic, because that was a very from a learning standpoint, an interesting case study. But he would just kind of hijack the topic, which is a great debate standpoint. That's a great debating mechanism when you have to do it. But as far as message clarity, well, I wouldn't say that like necessarily means strong message clarity because you're having to twist the message to say what you need to say or to at least come across as correct. So I do think, yeah, he has those skills. But I would say message clarity is where he fumbles a little bit more.
Okay, I kind of see that because if you compare it to Donald Trump Jr., like at least the MAGA base would question J.D. Vance's loyalty to Trump, like because he criticized Trump before, but you never see Donald Trump Jr. Criticize Trump before. So if from the message clarity, I think like to the MAGA base, Donald Trump Jr. probably would be on the same par, or if not better than J.D. Vance. Like who could be more MAGA than the son of the MAGA movement, like a big president, big leader, right? So what do you think about the Donald Trump Jr., Professor?
Well, it's you'll see in my ratings of him, I'm sorry, I have a very negative view of him. I don't think his messages are clear. I think
Mhm.
he says there's a lot of innuendo in what he has to say. There's a lot of doublespeak. There's a lot of uh, snarky kind of comments that you have to try to figure out what he really means here.
Mhm.
I, I think he can leave a lot of people bewildered by what exactly is he saying.
Yeah.
And I just, yeah,
But don't you think that's
I
actually how to say like really attractive to the MAGA base because his father did the exact same thing and they're okay with it.
it may be, but I don't think I see Trump as an anomaly. I don't think any of these people, should they try to imitate Trump, will be
Uh-huh.
successful.
Okay.
And I just don't think he has the wherewithal to in any of these categories. I mean, I gave him a one here, but yeah,
Okay.
I'm acknowledging here that this is one guy that I'm just biased. I just don't see. He's been more quiet over the last 6 months than I would have expected. He has said some outrageous things, but generally speaking, I expected him to have a little bit of higher profile than he has had thus far, and I'm a little puzzled as to
Oh,
why that is.
he's probably busy making money through cryptos.
Well,
So I
that
guess
is
that's
a big part of it. And that's what I mean when I talked about electability. I think
yeah.
some of the deal making and some of what eventually will come out and would come
Yeah.
out during a campaign will really paint him in a less than positive way. And that's why I don't see him electable at all.
Ron, what do you think?
I'm in agreement with what was said here. I'm also going one. Here's what. All right, so Don Jr. is just a terminally online internet troll.
Right.
That's literally what he is. That's what he does, and he has plenty of time on his hands to do it. So, Bruce, to your point, yeah, that's something that the a portion of the
Right.
MAGA base will respond to, certainly.
Hmm.
But I'll
Yeah,
tell you what, that stuff does not translate at the ballot box. At least it never has so far.
I agree.
I mean, like people just don't buy into that stuff. So he's just speaking to this terminally online audience, where he just gets his kicks and gets his serotonin through
Right.
the likes from Elon Musk's little Nazi platform. And that's just where he thrives. That will never translate at the ballot box. And also it leaves people who aren't terminally online wondering what the hell is he talking about here? At least half the time. So yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I would give him a one as far as
Okay.
message clarity goes.
Okay, I disagree with you guys. I think he will be the perfect MAGA, like how to say, torch carrier. Who could be more MAGA than the guy carry the same name, like Donald Trump Jr., like be the leader of the next MAGA movement. And also, I think Trump has enough reason to keep it to him because who could be more loyal than the son like you have, right? Like it's, even J.D.Vance is good, but he could still backstab you. Donald Trump Jr. won't. Like he's your baby son. You hold him like you change diaper for him. Maybe he didn't.
Oh, I,
But
Yeah, I
that
that
doubt
was
he
a
ever
good one,
shaved.
Bruce. No, I don't think that happened.
But I'll give him a three. So I think he'll just like copy whatever his dad said and be the MAGA warrior, anti-wokeness warrior. Okay, let's move on to Marco Rubio. Professor, what's your
Well,
four?
I rated him a three here
Hmm.
because and I'll tell you why. And this is the communication professor in me, and it may not mean much to most people, but I think many messages are clarified by one's ability to tell stories. And I think he is one of the better storytellers here.
Hmm.
That's why, from a message standpoint, I give him a three because I think he's a pretty good storyteller.
Okay, Ron, what do you think?
I'm gonna go. I guess I'll give him a two. I mean, he's not the world's worst speaker. Sure, that's fair. But I mean, again, he has been on such shaky ground the past 10 years or so. And if you
Hmm.
want to go further back than that, well, it's like, what's the point if we're talking about 2028? I mean, it's like I mean, the cycles are what, 48 hours here, really.
Yeah,
So, I mean, 2016 to present, he's just been, kind of in Narnia. So, I would say as far as message clarity goes, I mean, he hasn't even really stepped up to the plate on a whole lot.
Right.
hmm
So, I mean, I couldn't really give him more than a two. And like he just gets that two by default because he's a reasonable speaker and he's not constantly, stepping in it on social media, at least not that I see. So,
yeah. I'm actually going to give him a four. The reason I'm doing that is like I see him as a perfect representation. If like it reminds me of all the GOP good old days, neocon policy, supporters. I think he will just like if the MAGA movement face some headwinds and become like people realize that MAGA is like full of scams, then they'll say, "Oh, where's the good old days, conservative values?" And Rubio can say, "Oh, I'm always here. Like I have this neocon like foreign policy agenda, and I'm going to represent the good old Republican values." So he can easily pick that up. I'll give him a four on here.
yeah, I feel like every time they try that, it backfires though.
I know.
Because it's like, I mean, they had that like with John Kasich. He was supposed to be that.
Yeah,
After the Bush years, it's like, oh, okay, this whole thing was too far. What about just the classical conservative, good old, that was in John Kasich, and then he didn't get anywhere. So I feel like that's just the toothpaste is out of the tube now.
I know. I think like they just never won president elections. Yeah.
It kind of straddles it. I mean, one thing about him, I don't think he has as many enemies as some of the others here. Uh,
Hmm.
he generally has, fair support among Democrats. So he's not. Yeah, we're not really getting into character all that much,
Yeah.
and it's hard to with any group. This five, the next five we talk about when we talk about the Democrats, but he has he has positives. He has some.
Yeah. What about Ron DeSantis, Professor?
I had him as a two. I just and DeSantis and Abbott I see almost as the same person.
Hmm.
I think they have very similar speaking styles. I think you generally, I mean, generally their message is clear enough, but part of this to me is understanding audience and making your message resonate with the broader audience.
Hmm.
And I don't think either of the final two have the ability to make their message resonate with people unlike them, people in the middle. So in that regard, I don't think their message would be see real clear as to
Hmm.
what exactly they want to do in ways that people find meaningful to them.
Ron, what do you think about Ron?
So yeah, once again, I'm gonna be a little higher here, and
Hmm.
again, this is from a dangerous standpoint. Ron DeSantis is very good at making extreme, unreasonable things sound reasonable. And it's
Hmm.
because it comes across as just a clear, straightforward, common sense thing. It's not that.
Yeah.
But he's kind of slick and good at dressing that up. Um, the reason I don't give him higher, because you're thinking, man, that's a pretty powerful tool that he has, according to you, is because again, he's just not a very captivating speaker. He's not very
Yeah.
so it's like so that sort of diminishes the clarity a little bit. But yeah, I'll go three for Ron DeSantis.
Yeah, I'm gonna give him a three as well. I think he is very successful in Florida to play the cultural warrior, anti-wokeness, the right-wing talking points. He's very successful in establish those things. And also just like Ron just said, he actually made policies to really exercise what he believes. So that's a dangerous skills to have. And I think he has credibility because of he did that. He can just communicate. I not only saying that, I've actually passed legislative laws to exercise those things and to really push my right-wing agenda. So people will see credibility in his claims. So he can say, "I want to make American Florida," right? So that would be his slogan, right?
The other thing I would look for in him is the ability to transition a bit. Certainly, he scored a lot of points during the pandemic around what we wouldn't do in Florida.
Hmm.
Well, what will he do for the country? I think that, again, we're going to see a little shift. The next campaign is not going to be the same as the last campaign. I'm
Yeah.
firmly convinced of that. And I think people are going to want to hear a little less negativity and a little more, what exactly are you going to do for
Hmm.
people? How are you going to change things? Don't just criticize the other person. Just don't resort to name calling of opposing parties. And that's where I'll be interested to see how DeSantis makes that transition.
Hmm. Okay. Ron, about the Greg, what do you think?
I mean, does he have any messages? I almost feel like his score should just. Oh wait, sorry. I think that was Professor. You go first, right?
Mm.
But
Well,
you
no,
No,
I
already
Professor,
scored it.
and
Oh,
Ron,
you. Oh, that's right. You
I just
already
see
gave
him
the.
as
Yeah.
a talking
same
head,
as General DeSantis. Yeah.
and I just don't see, not just from that sort of platform skills, but just in terms of the messaging. And he has so tied everything to Trump right now. Uh, I just I think he's going to have some difficulty trying to draw in a broader audience with his message.
Hmm.
Yeah, I almost feel like my score for him in this should just be a question mark because it's like I mean, he's basically just, I mean, just read a press release from BP Oil, and that is just everything he will ever have to say.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, yeah, I would just say a one because there's just no substance there to even score it.
All right. I'm going to give him at least a three. So, Donald Trump Jr. got a three. Like I couldn't rate him lower than Junior. So I'm gonna keep it the same as at least as a scaling wise. I think he can copy a lot of like Trump's playbook, just say like the border security, like rule of law, even though he's trying to do gerrymandering right now. But that's his talking point. So he just like I'm a conservative, like the conservative values. I'm going to like push for more secure borders. I'm going to invest in the ICE to um, you know send back those illegal aliens and all those talking points. So
Yeah,
the
I think those are great points. Again, projecting out, one of the things I see in this next election is being able to message around how can we work better together? How can
Mhm.
we work across the aisle? I think Abbott is going to have one of the most difficult times doing that.
Yeah.
Having
Because he never
that kind
has
of
to.
message. Right. And all that he's doing now is and let's see where this all goes. Let's see where it all heads. I think one of the people coming out of this smelling like a rose a little bit is the governor of Illinois.
Yeah.
Uh, so we'll see. We'll see where it heads.
We'll see. Okay, for the coalition girls, Professor, you go first. J.D. Vance, what score you get him?
I so for me, I'm interpreting this as so it's beyond MAGA, right?
Oh yeah, it's a global stage, right? So like you want
I
to win
gave
the
him
general
I
election.
gave him a three. I
Hmm.
didn't give. I know my scores haven't been particularly high, but certainly on this one, I gave him a three, and I think he is, you know, the only one of the group that may have some potential to reach some of the independents and go beyond the current coalition.
Yeah. Ron, what do you think?
Yeah, the thing about J.D. Vance, though, is he is a very, very controversial figure still.
Hmm.
He is not well liked outside of that circle, and for good reasons. I mean, he is very, hostile online. He basically plays to his audience. So
Yeah.
he has a different tone when he's, speaking to the general public versus when he is on, Twitter or wherever else. But when you're running for office or when it's an election season, which in this country it always is,
Yeah.
all that stuff's going to be put on blast. So I mean, this is a guy that if he has any interest in building any kind of coalition, he sure doesn't show it until when he has to. But there's still a lot of skeletons in his closet. Now, there's some people on this list that are even worse
Yeah,
with all
Yeah.
that than he is. So for that reason, I'll give him a two, but
Okay.
it's almost a generous two in comparison to because yeah, he's
Okay.
not good at this.
I'll give him a three. The reason I say that is I think JD Vance doesn't have any of his core values. He just want to win and he just want to, get what he want, right? Like he would say anything if he can put him into the power. So for that reason, it's actually a good for building coalition because you don't have any core values, like you don't have any ground you cannot, move, and then you can just face shift into the position where that's potentially can draw most of the coalition together to vote for him. So I think he will potentially change his standpoint. He'll say he saved Obamacare like in 2028 if it's not necessary for him to win. So I'll give him a three at least here.
where I see one of his biggest liabilities here is one,
Hmm.
I think he's smart. I think he's a
Hmm.
smart guy, but I don't think he's as smart as he thinks he is.
Hmm.
Therefore, he will venture into things where he probably just should keep his mouth shut, and he
Yeah.
looks stupid when he does that. As an example, the little uh, brouhaha he had with the Catholic Church. I mean, over social justice theory. I mean, he's gonna. Pope Francis could teach him a few things.
Yeah.
Try to, even Pope
Hmm.
Leo. And so he ventures into some things relying on his smarts, his knowledge of history, doctrine, policy, and sometimes he goes too far and just looks foolish as a result of it.
Hmm. Okay, now we move on to Trump Jr. Professor. What is coalition growth?
Well, you could probably guess my score here. I
One.
I rated him a one. I
Yeah.
just don't see how in the world he could grow that coalition. I don't see it. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe I'm wrong. I just don't see it.
Ron, what do you think?
I'll give him a one just because zero is not an option. I mean, unless 4chan or QAnon really expands their membership, he's not getting anybody new, and I don't think he has any interest in changing that
Right,
anyway. So.
right.
Yeah, I don't have any disagreement with you guys. I'll give him a one here. I think like he's only get his core MAGA coalition. Those are like the ones that haven't been waking up like in 2028 after seeing their Medicare being stripped away by their governor and not by governor, by their um, president. So Marco Rubio, professor, coalition growth.
All right. Here I give him a three, and that is strictly further growth and inroads into the Latino votes.
Hmm.
I think that Rubio on a ticket could help that. And
Yeah,
again, I don't see him as the top of the ticket. I could see him as the second part of the ticket. And the reason why he would be the second part of the ticket would be this very reason.
yeah.
So that's why I would give him a three.
Ron, what do you think?
Uh, I'm gonna give him a two. And the reason I'll give him a two is because, and I think this has really been touched upon throughout the evening here when talking about Rubio. There are so many more prominent vocal villains compared to him. He kind of comes across as not as harsh.
Right.
Hmm.
I mean, politically, he's no different, but he's just a softer
Right.
spoken guy. Now, like the other, the flip side of that is like that also kind of comes across as weakness. So he won't do much with kind of outsider right wingers. He won't do much with libertarians or anything like that. But he might get some of the more like, conservative Dem faction or whatever. So I'll give him a two, but again, I just don't really even see him being in a position to grow a coalition.
Hmm. Okay. Actually, I'll give him a four. The reason I do that is again for his Latino vote appeal. You know, like the Latino population become more and more important in the election cycle, and I think his identity politics he could play some of that. So that's the reason I gave him a four on this one. Ron DeSantis, go
Can I
ahead.
say one more point here? Because I think it's significant with Rubio, and I want to relate
Hmm.
back to something Ron said. Uh, there is a softer side to him. There
Hmm.
is a perception of a little more compassion. I think that's going to play much more strongly in 2028. From my historical perspective here, what keeps going through my mind is Nixon,
Hmm.
Carter.
Yeah.
Nixon had, in my lifetime, the closest presidency to Trump. How he perceived the office, how did he try to extend power, how he
Hmm.
dealt with enemies, his paranoia, and certainly the cover up of the Watergate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the reaction in the country to that was how we got Jimmy Carter.
Mm.
It was
Hmm.
all about a little softer side to politics, someone we perceived as a person of integrity and trustworthy. And I think there's going to be some of an anti-Trump reflection in the 2028 election, which is going to make some of the characteristics now, which may seem like liabilities, be assets
Hmm.
in 2028.
I think
Got it.
that would only apply if Rubio was a Democrat, though.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
it's like, I mean, they'll probably, I mean, who
well,
knows
we're
what'll
just
happen between now
just
and
as
28,
we're
but
just talking about Republicans now. That to
no,
me,
no, no, I know.
right?
I just, yeah.
No, I see what you're saying, Ron. I just feel like with this group, he has some advantages that I don't see in some of the others.
I think Marco Rubio, like his record, he did support some immigration reform, and I think that's kind of more appeal to the Democrat Party because they support the immigration reform, right? So that kind of show the possibility of collaborations. Um, okay, Ron DeSantis, professor.
Well, I have twos for both of these two. I just am very I just don't see how they can go beyond who
Hmm.
they are in their states to make the kind of appeals nationally that would broaden the constituency to attract voters that right now are not in the fold.
Hmm.
I don't see either of them doing that.
Ron, what do you think?
I'm gonna give DeSantis a one. I think, I mean, look, again, he is who he is. He's a complete theocrat. He's a fascist. That's just definitionally what he is, and that's how he governs. And a lot of people see that. Now, he is a slick talker where he makes things sound reasonable, which maybe could give him more than a one, but then this comes into who you're going to fool with something like that. We're going to fool people who also go into likability, which he doesn't have. He's about as
Oh,
likable as watching paint dry.
yeah,
So for that
Yeah,
reason, I mean,
doesn't
I would
connect.
give him a one.
He doesn't
yeah.
connect.
I'll give him a two. I agree with both of you viewpoint. I think he will have hard time building a national coalition because of the policy he's been pushing in Florida. So, what about Greg? I think Professor already gave him the score. Ron, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the person who wrote this article just needed a fifth person and ran out of ideas.
So just
I
give him
still
one.
just got to, yeah, give him a one. I mean, what he
Okay.
wouldn't even know how to build a coalition. He never had to. He's
Yeah.
not going to learn that now.
Yeah. I'm gonna give him a two. I think he's slightly better than Donald Trump Jr. Like just for that reason, I'll give him a
Yeah.
two. Yeah. All right, for the money, J.D. Vance, professor.
I have him as a five. Now,
Yeah.
where I think this is dependent on is the performance of the Trump administration. If the Trump administration performs well over the next 3.5 years, I think the money pours into Vance.
Hmm.
He has the machine built already. I think he's the one that's going to get the money.
Yeah. Ron, what do you think?
I give everybody here a five.
Oh, okay.
I give every because I mean that just gets to the rot that is American politics. I mean, look,
Yeah.
if we're being honest, all five of these people, the one thing that they all have in common, other than being in bed with Trump, other than I wish I could throw them all in jail indefinitely, they are very, very underwhelming, shystery people. The
Uh-huh.
fact that they are thought leaders is
Yeah.
beyond frightening, and it's everything that's wrong with our electorate because we have an electoral system that is bought and sold by the same financial interest. And it's gotten
Yeah.
worse and worse and worse over the years. The overturn of Citizens United brought it to a new extreme level. Elon Musk brought it to a new extreme level with the money he was able to put in just as an individual. So if we're being objective here, every single one of these people gets a five because we wouldn't be talking about them if that wasn't already the case.
Yeah.
Well, what I'll say to that, Ron, and I understand where you're coming from there. I do. But I do think that a lot of the big donors, they're making decisions now and they're
Yeah.
hedging their bets and they're spreading the money and they're going to have to decide who they go in bed with. And they may throw some crumbs in certain directions, but they're going to have preferred candidates. And those are the candidates that are going to get the bulk of the money and the bulk of the access to the statewide coalitions.
And the voters decide that. They just go, I mean, like, they're just going to put their money behind who people like because they just want to win. So
Well,
it's like everybody
right.
has
That's why I
access.
think Vance is the most likely. That's why I scored him the highest because
Hmm.
I think he's the most likely if the Trump administration performs even average. I think he will get the money. They're not going to equally divide it.
No, no, no. I understand that. But I mean, I guess sometimes it's like hard for these topics not to overlap. Because if we're just strictly
Right.
talking money and machinery, it's not like any one of these people doesn't have access to the exact same thing. Now, whoever performs the best, yeah, they'll be who
Yeah.
they put the resources behind.
Right.
But, like
That's how I
if we're
view the
strictly
question.
trying to separate it, it's like, well then yeah, all these guys get a five.
So I do think like if we're comparing them across the board, I'll give Vance a five, but I don't think so for example, Vance would get Peter Thiel and Elon Musk backing him, right? Those are like really, really wealthy mega donors.
Right.
But Donald
Unless
Trump,
Trump Jr. is in the mix,
Yeah.
then I mean Peter Thiel and Elon Musk would get behind. Well, I mean unless Donald Trump burns that forest down between now and
Right.
28,
Which is
which is
possible.
possible. We
Which
I
don't
think
know. Like we're guessing.
Elon and the Trump are already they're both already sank. So
yeah.
Elon is
It
definitely
goes
not going to
back and
back.
forth though, right? Like I
Yeah.
mean they're on the outs and then they're not again. It's
They're
tough.
already divorced. They may have, they may, have one night affair sometime, but it's not going to be a relationship. I think that boat has already sank. So, I'm going to give Donald Trump Jr. 3. He has his own crypto money. Like, I don't think many big donor will kind of be super hyped to, like, donate to Donald Trump Jr.'s campaign. Professor, what do you think about?
I have him as a 3 as well.
Okay,
I don't think the heavy hitters are going to see him as a viable candidate.
yeah, Rubio, Professor.
I had him as a 3 as well. I think,
Okay.
and I try to separate him a little from DeSantis and Abbott. Not much, but my grading on all this has been slightly favored to him. So I have him a 3 and the next two as 2s.
Okay. So I'll give Rubio a 4. The reason is I think Murdoch, the owner of Fox News, he
Right.
really liked
Like,
Rubio and he actually supported him in the past primary. So I think he has done this national election cycle. So he built those machinery to raise money. He has access, he has appeal to those
yeah,
traditional GOP donors. So I think he's definitely doing better than the Trump Jr.
I agree.
DeSantis, I'll probably give him a 3. I think he's doing well in Florida, but he hasn't proved himself on the national stage. Greg, I'm probably going to give him a 3 as well. I think like they all proven themselves in their own state, but I don't think they have done anything in the national level. So I would say that they're probably on the same level with the Trump Jr.
Yeah.
Then it comes to the debate. Debate is gonna be fun. So, Professor, do you think about the J.D. Vance?
Well, I gave him a 4, uh, just because I think truth telling matters. And
Yeah,
I think that he is comfortable in those settings. And
yeah,
to me, that was a clear advantage he had in the vice presidential debate. You had one
yeah.
person who was comfortable in the setting and another who was extremely nervous.
Hmm.
Um, so I would say, but he gets pushed. And again, I think sometimes when he talks too much, he exposes what he doesn't know.
Hmm.
So he's going to have to learn when to keep his mouth shut. So
Yeah.
that's why I gave him a 4 and not a 5.
Ron, what do you think?
So yeah, and again, I'm like trying to differentiate between strictly debate and some of the other topics, but we referenced this debate a couple times, and the truth of the matter is, if you just look at things objectively from a debate standpoint, put aside morality, put aside truth telling, put aside all of that in the J.D. Vance Tim Walz debate, you could put that in a classroom. And if, again, being objective, putting truth aside, J.D. Vance did everything you should do. Tim Walz did everything you shouldn't do in that intro, and that just set the tone for the whole thing. J.D. Vance defined his terms. J.D. Vance made the best use of his 7 seconds. J.D. Vance, set the parameters of the debate. The one softball Tim Walz threw at him, he was prepared for. Tim Walz completely fumbled the whole thing. And yeah, nerves were part of it, sure. But I think Tim Walz, and again, we're just talking strictly debate here. My personal politics are way to the left of Tim Walz, but he's one of the better governors out there. I
Oh
was
yeah.
certainly rooting for him compared to JD Vance, so it was painful to watch, but he just fumbled every which way to Sunday. And JD Vance, the guy is a skilled debater. Again, if we're just strictly talking debate,
Oh
guy's a
yeah.
skilled debater. I got to give him a 4.
Yeah, I agree. I'll give him a 4 as well. I think he's really good at debating. I also think Tim Walz is going to be a much better governor. And honestly, if he could be a president, I think the country would be better. But I don't think Tim Walz good at debating, and apparently he kind of fumbled that debate. So
well,
Even he said he's not good at it.
let me
yeah.
just, I don't want to dwell on this, but so I watched the debate with our friends and with my wife, and I said afterwards, okay, if I were scoring this debate, I would score it somewhere around 46-44 Vance.
Hmm.
And when the first CNN poll came out, that's almost exactly what it was.
Hmm.
And when we did the Talk Me Up analysis of it, it's pretty much exactly what it was. It was amazing how consistent the analysis we did across different variables, like how much empathy, their use of evidence, their icons, so many different aspects of communication, how it just mapped. So I think he showed skill, but certainly not outstanding skill. He's comfortable in the setting, but like most politicians, he can be his own worst enemy at times. And especially when you start going down a path where you really don't have the facts and are making up stuff,
Yeah.
eventually you get called on that. And I think that's Vance's liability, not just in a debate setting, but just how he deals with the media in general.
Yeah, I agree. I think he need better test, a better opponent, I would say. Like probably put a seasoned debater to debate J.D.Vance. That would be
Well,
fun.
Shapiro, if Shapiro would have been, I'm not saying Shapiro should have been the candidate or not. That's not what I'm saying. If
Yeah.
Shapiro was in that setting with Vance, that would have been perceived very differently.
Exactly. I agree.
It would have been very perceived very different.
I've never
Yeah.
seen him debate, so I can't weigh in on that one way or another. I mean, I could say as a politician, I like Tim Walz better than Shapiro, but
Yeah.
I don't know how he is as a debater. I've never seen
Yeah.
him debate before.
He would have been very similar to Vance. They would have tapped into
You
some
mean
of their
politically or as a debater?
I think as
well,
a debater,
as a debater,
Okay.
Ron, I think he would have been more on Vance's level, and he would have challenged Vance more when Vance stretched things than Walz did.
Shapiro
Yeah,
has
well,
a legal training, right? Like
Right.
he's a
yeah, there you
lawyer,
go.
he's a
Was a
prosecutor, right?
prosecutor. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, yes. And I think in that kind of setting, that can be an advantage.
I view debate as a, similar as a competitive professional
Yeah.
sport, and
Yeah.
like relevant training matters a lot. I think Tim Walz is a good guy. He's an honest guy, but the problem is he's too honest, and then he did not have, those like specialized training like J.D. Vance or Shapiro went through in law school.
Yeah.
Yeah. Donald Trump Jr., how do you think he will debate?
Oh, I had a one for this. I just don't think I don't think he's capable of nuanced argument.
Oh
I
yeah.
don't think he's capable of offering backing. He just wants one-liners.
Hmm.
Like you said, Ron. I mean, he wants to play a social media game where
Hmm.
you can say a lot of things as a coward
Hmm.
without much backing or substance. You can lie more easily. Uh, I don't think that would play well. I think he would come across poorly.
Ron, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't, I think that sums it up. I don't have, I mean, yeah, you can't hide behind a computer screen in a debate.
Right.
So
Yeah.
one.
I'll give him a one as well. I think he will get high and he doesn't know what he is talking about in the debate stage.
You
So
think he gets high? I don't think he gets high.
I
I
think he's
don't,
always high. Like
I
there's
don't
one
think
picture of
so.
him like people speculating he is having some,
I think if he would become a serious candidate, what all we would find out about this guy.
that would be really fun. What about Marco Rubio? I guess you guys watched the clip. He had that like micro robot with Chris Christie,
And
right?
the water thing, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, Rubio can't hold it together on a debate stage.
yeah.
Well,
Professor, what do you think?
I had him as a two. I think again, if there's opportunity for storytelling, which there generally is, I see that's where I see his strength. But you need that balance. You need rational appeals and intuitive appeals. And I'm not sure. Well, we know if we go back to just his performance the last time he ran for president, it was very underwhelming. And
Hmm.
I think he can be put on the defensive easily and doesn't always come out of that well. So while I think he has some strengths as a communicator, I really do. I think that in debate, even more than media, I see him a little lacking.
Lacking. Okay. Ron, what do you think?
Yeah, and for that reason, I give him a one. I mean, yeah, he does have some communications, and I think it's more timidity than actual
Hmm.
compassion, but he's able to mask it that way. So there is that. That doesn't matter in a debate, though. So yeah, he
Hmm.
can't handle a debate. He gets rattled way too easily. He's like that quarterback that they get hit once and they're terrible the rest of the game,
Yeah,
and that's what'll
Yeah,
happen to him in any debate. So
yeah.
he gets a
yeah,
one.
yeah. I'm gonna give him a slightly higher just to be different. And also I think like he's kind of practicing a lot. So he's your typical uh good student who practice a lot behind the back who become a robot. But I think like at the primary stage, he if he didn't face someone like a Chris Christie, I think he can go a little bit further than Donald Trump Jr. Like him at three. Ron DeSantis, professor.
I have, I have again him and Abbott. I have a hard time.
Tell the
So
difference,
I
right?
had a two for both of them. I just
Okay.
don't think they're. I don't think they're very skilled in how they are able to connect with audiences.
Hmm.
And whether it's a debate setting or communicating through a media, you have to be audience centered and people have to find what you're saying compelling to them. And they can preach about what they do in Florida, what they do in Texas, but people want to know how it will play in Pennsylvania, how it'll play in Wisconsin. I don't
Hmm.
think either of them are very skilled at that.
Gotcha. Ron.
I'm gonna give him a three. Ron DeSantis, and again, because we're talking about debating, one thing that guy is pretty good at, and again, he uses this skill for evil, but again, just being objective here, he really knows how to deflect the criticism, especially when it comes to policy. He is
Hmm.
very good at that. He is ready for, the common criticisms that he will get and he has a prepared answer. It's all a
Yeah.
bunch of nonsense, but he's prepared for it. That's a strength, especially in a debate. When you know how to play good defense, that's pretty, like that's a useful skill. Now, on offense, he's not so great, because again, he's just really not the most compelling speaker in the world.
Hmm.
So, I give him a three for that one skill. But again, and this just comes back to the whole he's just not the most presentable guy in the world, and it's just so weak that it just impacts him everywhere.
Yeah. What do you think about the Greg? Let's just like comment this two together.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Do we? I mean, I would say I would just give him a two, just by like a default two, because he's just a
Hmm.
run-of-the-mill Republican who's going to give you a run-of-the-mill Republican performance in a debate.
Yeah. I'll give both of them three. I watched their debate before. I think they're competent debaters, at least at the Marco Rubio level. I mean, sometimes they all looks like you're a good student, over preparing. Just like Ron said, every question regarding the policy, they have an answer for that. So I think that's a good defense.
Yeah.
But I agree, like none of them are charismatic, and none of them are particularly likable. So I just put them all three here. No, I
Yeah,
think
I mean, Abbott will memorize his note cards. You know,
yeah,
yeah.
he'll memorize his note cards that his intern gives him,
that's what
and
he
that's it.
does. He definitely leans heavy on his no cards. To me, again, this is the debate slash media skill. You
Mm,
have to learn to craft key messages that will resonate with broad audiences, and you can keep coming back to those key messages through the media. I just don't see those final two with an ability to do that. Anyway.
got it. Okay, now we come down to the liability. That means like any
That's a tough
scandal
one.
come out, any like opposition research, what attack ads that your opponent going to buy and broadcast on you for J.D. Vance, Professor.
I had him as a two. I think at this point of a next election, we're going to know enough about Vance. There's
Mhm.
definitely some stuff there that is risky, but comparatively speaking, he's probably the least risky of the group.
Ron, what do you think?
Yeah, I guess I'll go a little higher and I'll go three. I mean, it is true that, yeah, like a lot about him has just sort of come out already. Like people are just like, because he's already in the zeitgeist big time. He's vice president. But that being said, he still creates new content daily. And
Mhm.
so, I mean, he
Right.
has a nice little a nice little e-trail that he's establishing that an Oppo research person who's good at their job would have a field day with. So yeah, even though, a lot of it's already out in the open, there's still more to come. So as I would go a little higher, I'd give him a three.
Okay, I'm going to give him a five. The reason I do
Oh,
that is like, if you remember the controversies he brought to the ticket when Trump picked him as a vice president, all kinds of clips, like his past speech, his interview, all the crazy thing he said to his MAGA audience, all flow to the national stage. I think he has this tendency of, he's too smart. I agree with what Professor said. He thinks he's smarter than what he really is. So he speak different tones towards different audience, and sometimes that backfires. And you may find some extreme clip. He talk about certain issue. He try to please the audience. He say whatever they want to hear, and that could backfire. So I think he has a huge list of trails of
so
potential
you
liabilities.
think he's gonna step on a landmine between now and 28?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
he might.
He
That's
might.
not impossible.
Yeah,
The
I think because of his tendency of like trying to please the audience, he would just say
Yeah,
whatever they want to hear.
the
I hear what
one
you're
thing
saying.
I'll give him credit for though was, certainly when you look at the comments he made about Trump, he
Hmm.
apparently saying America's Hitler. I think he handled that well. I mean,
Hmm.
pretty much put it to bed
Yeah,
and said, yeah, at that time I felt that way.
yeah.
I got to know the person, understand the workings, and I don't see things that way anymore. So he didn't
Hmm.
say, well, this is what I meant. It was taken out of context. I appreciated that he generally owned it. And then one of the things I don't think we do enough of is give politicians the benefit of some potential growth.
Hmm.
People change daily.
Yeah.
And, it gets me sometimes when we look at something someone did or said 20 years ago and we think that was the defining moment. Now, I truly believe past behavior does predict future behavior, but people also change and grow. And
Hmm.
I think Vance does show an ability to take some of those skeletons and address them fairly directly. And, that's why I'm,
Oh yeah,
you know,
I
very,
definitely agree. I think we just have different viewpoint on this. My
yeah.
viewpoint is like I agree he handled the past skeleton pretty well. My argument is like he could create new ones. So
Oh,
like I
yeah.
think
Oh,
by that time he's going to create lots of
or
them that
Trump in general. I mean, I think when you talk about his biggest liability might end up being the vice president for the Trump administration. That
Yeah,
may be his biggest liability. That
Yeah.
is what we don't know right
it could be what Kamala Harris was facing in
now. Right.
2024. That's like you are the administration, you are like involved, heavily involved in that.
Now, what I will say to that is, from a campaigning standpoint, I think J.D. Vance would do a better
Oh
job
yeah.
distancing
Unquestionably.
himself than
Oh,
Kamala Harris did.
for sure, no
Because
problem,
she,
no,
she
no
Could
really
doubt,
do
fell short
worse.
there. She
You
no
could
really,
doubt.
she,
do worse than she did.
yeah, no,
Yeah,
she really failed there
yeah,
big times.
yeah. Okay, for Donald Trump Jr., Professor.
Oh, I have a five. I think what this guy's got in his background, I think in so many ways from I don't even want to go through the list, but the personal side of him, the wheeler dealer side of him, I just think there's a lot there that hasn't been surfaced because the focus is on Trump Sr. I think should the focus turn to him, we're going to see landmine after landmine.
Ron, what do you think?
Yeah, it's I can't really dispute any of that. Just for the sake of mixing it up a little bit, I'll go four.
Okay.
But the only reason I'm going four is because, when you're friends with all the most powerful people in big tech, you can you can get a lot of things deleted.
Okay.
But yeah, the landmines are out there. But when you got Peter Thiel and Elon Musk on speed dial,
Yeah,
you could at least do sub damage control.
Yeah.
true.
I'll give him a five, like I still remember I love it email, like the Russia Gate,
Yeah,
the meeting in the Trump Tower, and who knows how much dealing he had behind the scene for the crypto stuff, the Trump coin, all the other stuff.
that's right.
So
That
I'll
I
give him a five. If the Congress really started an independent investigation into that crypto thing, a lot of things will be reviewed. Uh, and they tie to China. Like, just spoiler alert. Uh, so for Marco Rubio, Professor.
I had a two.
Mm,
Again, I think we know this guy fairly well, and I don't think there's a ton of landmines there. Now, a lot of it remains to be seen in his current role and
hmm
what plays out on the international. He too could be easily thrown under the bus
hmm
by the president.
Yeah.
Certain things go south internationally. So, but I think from what we know right now, I would give him a two.
Ron, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty accurate assessment. I'll go a little higher with the three, because while it is true that, he kind of keeps his nose out of things and just plays the Beltway game, but he also, again, he's an easily rattled guy.
Mm,
There's going to be tons of footage of him dodging constituents, dodging town halls, refusing to meet with people. That's all documented. And I
hmm
think I think an Oppo research person could really put together just a strong dossier to really, hammer at him.
Yeah.
So I'll go a little higher for that reason
That's
with the
right.
three.
I'm gonna give him a two. I think he, among all the candidate here, he probably the lowest liability risk because he just stayed out of things. He just don't get involved with any controversy. I think like particular for that drama happened in the White House, like the Elon thing. He has some argument with Elon, but there's no like show off a WWE kind of showing up in the White House. So I'll give him a two. Ron DeSantis, Professor.
I had a three for him. I
hmm
just feel that it's just hard for him to go beyond the state of Florida in my mind. I
hmm
just don't think he connects with people well at all. And while he's ended up being at the right place at the right time in Florida, I don't think he's going to go any further. I think there would be a lot of uh, things that people would dwell on Florida, and maybe the debate would be could how would that play nationally, and what's
hmm
the downside to what he's doing. I think more of that would come into play. So I see that there's a fair amount of risk there.
Ron, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty Yeah, I think that's a pretty accurate number. I would go three in this case too, because I think that the cards are on the table with this guy, and they're going to play out how they're going to play out. Now, I think one thing that could affect his score here would
Hmm.
be, where the public opinion is by 2028.
Hmm.
And if it's heavily favored politically towards MAGA, which presumably it won't be, but who knows? But if it isn't, then his liability will be a bit higher, even though him and
Yeah.
Trump don't get along well, because like policy neck and neck, it's identical.
Hmm.
But if it's the opposite, well then maybe it would be, a little lower. But yeah, I think three is a pretty fair assessment for him. Again, Florida centric.
Yeah, I'm gonna give him a four. I think his a lot of policy he push in Florida doesn't do well
Right. Right.
nationally. Particular those like anti gay marriage and anti-abortion, those things will be controversy on the national stage. So I think he has a lot of like landmines
Yeah.
to be discovered. The only thing that people didn't notice that because he didn't win the primary. So when he win the primary, the Democratic machinery will start to do the research, deep research on him. What about Greg, Professor?
I have him for a four. I think this whole gerrymandering going on in Florida
Hmm.
could really hurt this guy.
Hmm.
I mean, people are going to want to see politicians start to work together rather than trying to distance, isolate, and just do whatever you can to manipulate. And
Hmm.
I think that in and of itself, if I look at no other issue, but what he's doing right now in Texas, I think there's tremendous risk there.
Ron, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll go with three just because yeah, I mean I do think like that's the whole gerrymander thing that will be an issue, but how we don't know exactly how loud that will be come
Right.
2028 because we don't
Hmm.
know, are they going to go through with that? If they go through with that, is California going to retaliate? And then
Right.
it just sort of is a wash anyway, and they're just like, well, that was weird. So that's a little tough to, predict what kind of an impact that'll have just at this point in time. And other than that, I mean, again, he's just kind of like a blank suit, which comes with a lot of problems, but liability is not necessarily one of them.
Hmm. I'll give him a four. I think I agree with Professor. Like gerrymandering and other policy he been pushing in Texas could be liable, like in the national stage. So that could be an issue to attract the middle voter, like independent voters. So okay, so we complete all the ratings and look at the final score here, like normalized final score for JD 71, still the front runner. The next one is Rubio. I think the betting market and the common sense
Yeah.
are kind of all aligned, right? Like we all agree on that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think probably right. Right.
yeah. So that's good. I think we complete this full rating for this top five tier. Like I think everyone agrees JD Van is still the front runner. And what do you think could be the ticket? I mean, I think from the Trump perspective, JD Vance plus Marco Rubio, that might be the GOP ticket 2028.
I think there's a good chance of that. I don't know if the females Trump has in this administration. I'm not sure
Yeah.
either would add much to the ticket. In terms of adding to the ticket, I think Rubio would make sense. Um, I don't know, maybe the governor of Virginia just to get a governor there
Oh yeah.
rather than two Senate backgrounds. Well, now, Rubio has some other stuff, of course, but I don't know. Yeah, I think Vance and Rubio, if I had to vote, that would be my most likely ticket.
Go.
All
Yeah.
right. I
And
think
Double
I think
parter.
we had a lot of fun here discussing this.
absolutely.
This was
Yeah.
fun, y'all.
Yep.
Uh, we should do a next one on
It's,
the
it's really
Democrat
late
side.
where you guys are.
I'm getting
Yeah,
tired. Yeah, the old man's
Yeah.
getting tired here. That is
yeah. So that will be today's show, and thanks for watching. And we're going to looking forward to the next one with a Democrat candidate.
All righty.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Bruce.
Thanks,
Good
Bruce.
seeing you, Ron.
Good
See you
seeing you guys.
later.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye bye.
Peace.